Welcome to the Lighting Asylum. Today, we're talking low light photography. There are 4 things you need to know in order to make great photos in low light. Practice, 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 or just plain get lucky. I'm going to give you a few tips that are going to make it easy for taking photos in low light. I'm going to use my friend Kaleo today to give me some help.
How's it?
Whoa. Okay, so most of the things that I'm going to show you today, you probably already know. However, you will never take great low light photos unless you actually put yourself in the position to have to take them. With that said, let me give you a few things to practice. Let's start with Kaleo now. And the first thing that I'm going to do is try to teach him how to hold the camera right. It's so important that we learn to hold the camera steady. We have to train ourselves to hold it, so I want you to just take a really quick photo.
Okay.
Let's stop right there. See how easy it is for me to push you off center? Let's get it now. Let's get your feet a little bit further apart. If you can get your feet about shoulder width apart, you're much more stable, so you're not rocking. Think about it if you've got your legs apart like a tripod. When your legs are together, it's kind of like being on a monopod. So that's tip 1. Get back in the pool. Now let's look at...
Shallow.
Let's next look at how you're holding your camera. See, with both hands, people normally hold the camera body. I want you to instead try holding the body of the camera with one hand and supporting the lens with the other. This makes a huge difference. You need to train yourself to support that lens. The longer the lens, the more that lens is going to bob around. Here's another great tip. Now, I wished I'd came up with this, but I didn't. I learned this from Joe McNally, who in turn learned it from somebody else. I think in his book Hot Shoe Diaries, he calls it something like his pretzel ninja grip. But it's really a simple thing to do. You're going to place the camera in your shooting hand. It's easy to do it if you have a grip on the bottom of your camera. The lens is going to rest on my shoulder. I'm going to support the lens with my arm, and I can look right inside there. It looks a little bit odd, but it works. Let's move on to ISO. There's no reason anymore to be shooting in low light with ISO 200. Our cameras are so good now that when the lights go down, even a little bit, man, we can slip to ISO 800, even as high as 16 or 2400 without losing any image quality. Hey, I'll take a little bit of grain over a blurry picture any day. I always encourage people in my workshop to go home, take their cameras, and shoot a series of photos. I tell them to start at their lowest ISO setting and take the same picture all the way through their highest. Then tell me when their camera's too noisy to use. Don't forget, don't overthink ISO. Are you shooting billboards? Right now, I can shoot a photo at ISO 3600, and I can print that thing to 11 by 14 if I use proper exposure, and I'm never going to hear, that's a really noisy photo. The next thing is aperture. With a wide aperture like 2.8, it's great and it is very helpful. But remember, with those wide apertures come very shallow depth of field. This is why I mentioned ISO first. If you're shooting a single object or a couple of people that are close to the same plane, their faces are kind of lined up there, then by all means, open that lens wide. Otherwise, you need to be careful when the aperture is too wide because most of your photo is going to be out of focus. The number one mistake I see these days in family portraits is the fact that people shoot at this wide ISO at 2.8. The people in the front row are perfectly in focus, but all the family members 2 rows back are completely out of focus. Shutter speed is next on the list. Yes, you can slow your shutter speed down and just get amazing results. However, slow shutter speeds produce blurry photos. To avoid blurry photos, you know what? Go back to tip number 1. Learn how to hold your camera. Learn to support it. Try that grip out. Better yet, use a tripod. Don't forget that just because it looks good on the LCD screen doesn't mean it's sharp when you get it back home. Lastly, shoot in RAW. When you shoot in RAW, your camera, it records a wide exposure range. But when you shoot in JPEG, your cameras make a decision on what it thinks is the correct exposure, and then it throws away all that additional information. Information that can really help save a shot. Another way RAW helps is it keeps your luminance channel separate. Luminance, remember, determines the lightness and the darkness of an image. And a JPEG, it compresses all of that information into an RGB file. So, let's go back to the beginning. All of what I just said, it's not new. However, you will truly never learn how to do things in photography simply by reading about it or just watching video tutorials. You must go out and do it. Thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing your low light photos. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and post your images. Thanks.